My name is Jim Olver, and welcome to Canoeing Live. And I want to have a special welcome to those who are here for their repeat visitors, and to welcome all you newcomers as well. Canoeing Live is a virtual event series produced by my colleague Devin Ingram, my technical whiz son Thomas Olver, and myself. And we're aiming to celebrate canoeing, to hear from each other, to listen to some experts, and build a canoeing community. I'm proud to be speaking today from Treaty 7 territory, the traditional lands of the Stoney Nakoda, the Tsuut'ina, the Métis, and the Blackfoot. And we have a special responsibility to steward this land in the Rocky Mountains along with those groups. Now I'd like to shift into my screen share responsibilities here. There we go. And what we'd like to do here on Canoeing Live is to have connection before content. And that's one of the reasons why we have this 10-15 minute chat session before we get into the main program. We'd like to use the chat as well. So please feel free to contribute throughout the program. Any questions you have, suggestions you have for future programming. And we are going to have a poll tonight. Last session we had a poll, and we found some interesting things about the community, and here's a chance to do it again with slightly different questions. So you should see a poll in front of you now, and I want to welcome Bucky. I can finally see Bucky and Mary there. And so this is your chance to participate with the poll. You should see a poll in front of you. And first question is, how many years have you been paddling? So why don't you take your cursor and make your mark.
Have others got the poll up? Because I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
You don't?
Not up yet, Jim.
I'm going to relaunch it. Hold on. Thank you for telling me that. How's that look?
Good, it's there now.
Okay.
Now, do we just click on the number or?
Yeah, that's first one. How many years have you paddling? You only get one choice here.
Where do we click?
You won't be able to click, Mark, because you're a co-host technically. So.
Oh, geez, well, you don't have a big enough number anyway.
Okay.
We'll go to you and just get the straight answer.
Okay, someone started the ball rolling. Don't be afraid. Tell us how many.
Make sure you advise people to scroll down on the.
Okay, yes, there's actually 4 questions, and thank you for that. Once you finish question 1 and question 2, you use the scroll bar on the right. There, we're getting some action in it now. So question 2 is what type of paddling interests you? And I do believe you can choose more than one in that one.
I think on mine it's only set up for one, because I was going to click almost all of them.
Okay,
Yeah,
well
likewise,
then
only
it's
had
one only. Thank you, Chip. Question 3, approximately how many multi-day paddling trips have you taken? We're going to leave it out for another half minute, and then we're going to review the results. And the last question, what information sources do you usually utilize in planning a canoe trip? I do believe this one is multiple choice because it's a real popular one. Thanks for your help, everyone, as we work through the kinks of all of this high technology. Okay, we're going to take another 10 seconds and then we're going to publish the results. Here comes my cat. My son's cat. All the animals are coming in tonight. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. And now I'm going to share the results and ask Dev to highlight the results, please.
So the first question, how many years have you been paddling? The winner, 43%, almost half the group is more than 20 years, which is awesome. And what type of paddling interests you? Canoeing, which makes sense. Also kayaking and lots of tripping enthusiasts and whitewater paddlers as well. And how many multi-day paddling trips you've been taking on? Almost half the group says less than 5. And then we've got almost an even split for 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and more than 20. So we've got a big range here. And what information sources do you usually utilize? We have almost equal enthusiasm for all of the options here. Weather reports, 65%, trip blogs, topo maps, a slight edge for guidebooks, word of mouth reports, water flow levels. So everyone is using lots of information to plan.
All right. I hope you like that. If you think of something during the session that we could ask in another episode, please put it in there. So I'm going to stop the share results, and I think you can just close that window. We've got 3 people waiting. Dev, if you could welcome them into the group.
Yeah, they should be joining any minute now.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So I'd like you to get into the chat now, and I don't think my question was exhausting in the poll, but what resources do you use most in your canoe trip planning? See if we can get 2 or 3 per person. And Mark's guide is a legitimate response to this question. Mark, thanks, Joanna. Chip likes to talk to someone who's been on the river before. Local knowledge. Thanks, Katie, for that. Glenda, ask Bucky and Mary Buckingham. Plus you. Thank you. Google Maps, Topo Maps, Guidebooks, Trip Reports. Oxy Explorer, I don't know that one, to calculate distances. Thanks, Matthew. ESRI maps. Boy, this is a popular one. Kevin Callan's Guidebook in Ontario. And Sandro uses CalTopo. Have you heard of that, Mark?
I've heard of it. I've never used it.
Hugh Burton, Canadian Canoe Routes. I like to look at, and I didn't do this early on and was surprised when we went to northern Saskatchewan and found the water levels so different from the time that we'd been there before. It made a big difference to our campsite plans. Rick Dreidinger, Katie in Mississippi. Okay, well, Laurel Archer's books. Yes, we've got it. Hap Wilson's guidebooks. We photograph his maps and take them with us. Local outfitters. Nice. Okay. Well, feel free to pop something in the chat anytime. And what Devin and I like to do is save the chat at the end of the session and go back through it. There's always some gold in there that we didn't recognize at the time. So thank you very much for those contributions. And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for the night. a real legend in Alberta. And I remember meeting Mark for the first time at Banff Center. We held a conference, hosted a conference from Alberta Parks and Recreation, and they were training and bringing together leaders in sports and recreation. And I met my heroes in both curling and in canoeing, and that's where I first met Mark. I also met him at the Three Rivers Rendezvous that Chuck was holding down in the Crow's Nest Pass. And I remember frequently, and Chip was with me on this time, Mark led us on a tour of the Crow's Nest River. And we went from the slide, at the Frank slide, right back down close to our campsite. And Mark positioned vehicles at the takeout, and then we drove to the put in, and we're driving around Frank slide area, and we went back and forth looking for that spot, and we finally found it. And I remember Mark saying, well, you know, 25 years ago, that bridge wasn't there. And Mark is always a gentleman. He's a teacher. He's a canoeist above all. He's a writer. And I've always got time to listen to Mark Lund. So I want to welcome you to Canoeing Live, Mark, and ask you to tell us about trip planning from Guidebooks to Google Earth. And now Mark's going to do his technical stuff.
Yeah, it'd probably be best if you turn off your share. There we go.
There, I'm off.
I will share. I have to get rid of my participant window here so I can see what I'm supposed to be saying. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, it's about 8 weeks ago that Jim asked me if I would present on Canoeing Live, and he explained a little bit about what it was going to be, and I said, of course I would. I'm really amazed at how quickly the project has expanded. I made the assumption that, you know, would be all Albertans, but I see we got people across the whole country, and I apologize if this content is a little too local. Thursday night, Jim and Devin and I went through the technical review to make sure everything would work. And that's when I realized that, yeah, it was probably a little bit local, and I've added a bit more material, but yeah, I am, I mean, I've paddled in every province and 2 of the 3 territories. So I've been around the country quite a bit, but Alberta's home. My grandkids are the 6th generation of Lunds to live in Alberta. So we've been here a long time. And you know, I guess I'm probably best known as a canoe guide author. I trained as a generic jock and taught phys ed and health and computer ed at the post-secondary level for most of my career. But I really credit my canoe guide roots to the late Herb Bentham. And there might be a few Calgarians who remember Herb. He co-founded Calgary Canoe Club, Bow Waters Canoe Club, and one that I believe is no longer with us, the Bear Paws Canoe Club. In 1971, I was a budding whitewater paddler, and the Red Deer Canoe Club, where I started out, was the lead organization for organizing the 72 Whitewater Nationals. And we were having a meeting in Lacombe to get it going, and Herb was there, and he said, what this province needs is a canoe guide to the rivers to enhance safety and planning. And that's kind of how I got started. That was in November, if I remember right, and around Christmas time, Pierre Trudeau came out with the Opportunities for Youth program. And myself and some of my paddling buddies at Red Deer College, and most people probably don't remember, but the colleges in Alberta used to have quite an active canoeing circuit, competitive marathon style paddling. Anyway, we thought we'd try and put together a canoe guide, and we spent the summer of '72 doing exactly that. So in thinking about this, I thought the key things I would try and do tonight is talk a little bit about guidebooks, a little bit about some of the web guides that are available, a little bit about how to use Google Earth to supplement reports. I mean, I go to Google Earth all the time when I'm editing, revising, and checking on reports or planning trips to go out. And then, you know, what can you do with Google Earth if there's no guidebook to tell you what some of the answers to the important questions are? So I hope that is going to be enough. Jim told me I only get to talk for 20 minutes or so, but I'll probably break that. Oh, okay. So what should be in a guidebook? I tell you, if you compare my present guidebook with those first Canoe Alberta reports that we did in '72, '73, even the '78 version, we've expanded, or I've certainly expanded the amount of material that we put in. And some of the things are really suggestions that that people have made to me. For instance, why do it? Brooke Martin said, you know, you write all these reports, Mark, but why should somebody go paddle there? Another one, Katie Cox said, you know, Mark, you got all these rivers. I got no bloody idea where they are in Alberta, which is why the book starts with a big location map. And then, of course, we've always thought about classification, you know, the starts, finishes, intermediate accesses. I wrote self-published my first canoe guide for Central Alberta in 1996. And it was done largely at the encouragement of an Edmonton chap that was a bit of a family friend, and he'd got the franchise for Maptown for Edmonton. And he encouraged me to write a canoe guide. I wrote the first one actually for Edmonton and the second one for Central Alberta. And that was about the time that GPSs were becoming popular. And he loaned me a GPS when I told him I was thinking about writing a couple more canoe guides for the province. I at one point had a dream about doing a southern guide, a central guide, and a northern guide. And Art loaned me a GPS, and that's when I really started to use GPSs. I learned lots of things. The first trip I was on, I was paddling on the Sheep River, and I kept saying to Lois, you know, this GPS has us about 300 meters out into that field. That's when I learned how important the datum setting is on your GPS if you want to coordinate with a top sheet. Gradients, volume, changes, where the gradients change, that kind of stuff. I can remember some early canoe guides that just gave you the average gradient from the start to the end. Now, of course, you can't get any gradient much different than between two contour lines, unless you got a bunch of contour lines stacked up and the river's going straight down. I always thought that my canoe guides would not be the only source that people should go with. Even now, though I travel with a cell phone, with a GPS, I usually travel with my old trusty 2008 GPS because it's a little friendlier than the cell phone. I still always carry a top sheet and a waterproof map case and a compass. I wouldn't go without them. Some of the things like where to camp, those are always good things to know. Sometimes where the campsites on the river and where are the campsites that support. Because lots of us, I see my old friend Don Mitchell is here, and he's got us all booked into Gold Springs Park for a long weekend on the Milk River on the July long weekend. You know, we go and we car camp and we paddle, so camping's pretty broad. Trip notes might be the most important thing that get put in there about the river in particular. The other things, wildlife, geology, natural history, cultural features. And one of the last things that I added was, I can't remember if it was 2007 or 2014, where the outfitters, rental agencies, shuttle agencies are. I think one of the finest trips I did was we were doing Rocky to Drayton Valley, and we hired the local taxi company to do the shuttle for us, and we ended up traveling in a limo. I thought that was a trip done in style. Are there other things that people would like to have in a guidebook or seen guidebooks that should be in it? Nobody wants to tell me that there's things I've missed? I'm not hearing anybody.
We got one comment here in the chat, Mark.
They're
Barbara
coming
says,
in on the chat, are they?
yeah. Barbara says she'd
Ooh.
be curious on lake depths.
Lake depths. Ooh. I'm going to write that down. Lake depths. Now, you know, there is a atlas of Alberta lakes that gives you hydrographs. No, what do they call them? Not a hydrograph, hydrology. Maps with, you know, the contour lines for the depths of the water.
We have another comment there, Mark. Weather radio channels. Flow rates, when to paddle.
Oh, yeah, did I? Oh, yeah, I got river volume, annual flow, quartiles, peaks, minimum, recommended flow. Yep. Now, when you say weather radio, I mean, I mostly carry weather radios when I'm on the coast because the weather out there scares me. Are there more than 7 of the 7 weather radio channels across the country? You know, when I'm sharing my screen here, I seem to have lost my chat view.
Yeah, so that question was from, or the suggestion was from Marie only. Marie, do you know about interior weather channels?
Okay, anything else coming in there, Devin?
No, I think you're good for now, Mark.
Okay, let's go on.
Oh, the map app that someone asked for. I'm always curious about map apps.
Jim, I put that in. I can't remember the name of that app we use about Canada, but we can just pull it up. If we've downloaded where
Yeah,
we're going, we can just
if
pull it
I-
up on our phone, even without cell service.
I think that's the Topo Canada app. I can put a link to it in the chat here.
Cool.
Yeah, we
that's
find
great.
that when we're out, can you hear me? When we're out, we take all the maps with us, and everyone in the canoe, everyone in the group has a map on their lap. If we have 3 boats, 2 per boat, we have 6 sets of maps, and they're all identical. And we're trying to teach everyone how to navigate by maps. And but once in a while, we'll get confused, and we will use an app on our phone. It's called Canada app, and it's you basically download the topo maps for the sections that you're going to be paddling. You can have a lot of stuff on your phone. And you don't need cell service. It works off a satellite feed, and it will tell you very accurately where you are. And so we always have that. We also use InReach to confirm not only our locations and as a communicator, but to download weather apps, if that can be helpful. That's all from me.
I thought I should at least mention those Alberta guides that I think are available. Of course, my guide is available, and the last time I updated it was last winter. Finished it in February, brought the guidebook out again in, and I've done this consistently since 2007. Made corrected errors and updated. And of course, one of the biggest things that's kept changing over these last decade is RV passage. And I see that Prairie River is still available. That's an excellent guide to the South Saskatchewan. And Prairie Paddling covers some of the same material, and I think I had to go to the Maptown website to find out that it was still in print and available, but they didn't list who the author was. It's I think it's a Dutch family that wrote it and have published it. But those are the three that I think people probably want to have, that you should be able to buy at any of the good paddling stores, or like I said, Maptown in Calgary. And they have it online. Any other guides that I've missed here? Well, let me stick to Alberta here, because I have guides from across the whole country and most of the states. But anybody familiar with anything else that's readily available right now in Alberta? Nope.
Are the Clayton Roth guides still in print?
No, that's a long tale of woe. And someday around the campfire, maybe we should talk about Clayton and his books and his map guides. I was part of the Paddle Alberta executive. I wasn't there right at the start when Clayton started that project, but I was there and consulted on 7 or 8 of the maps, and also helped negotiate the wind up of the relationship between Clayton and Paddle Alberta. They were excellent, but anyway, no, they're not available. Anything else? Web paddling guides, paddlingmaps.com. How many people are using it? That would be a good question. Maybe in the chat, which I still can't see. You could indicate you're keeping the chat, right, Devin? So
Yeah, I'll shout it out to you if someone
yeah, good.
pops in
Yeah,
there.
I'd like to hear, because Paddling Maps, has an interesting background. It started out as Paddling ABC and was done by a volunteer out of Calgary. And after 3 or 4 years, it was getting to be a horrendous job. And I was on the Paddle Alberta executive when we tried to help out with it a little bit, and ultimately, it got turned over to Aquabatics and Rapid Media, who are sponsoring it right now. And of course, I think it's being used across all of Canada and into the States.
Yeah, we've got some people using it. Sandra says that he uses it in Quebec and Ontario. Barbara uses it quite a bit. Mike is not familiar with it. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, we can do better than that. I don't see Rapid Media on the supporter list anymore. Well, there's Paddling Maps. That's what it looks like. It's It's pretty good, you know, you can click it. Oh, there we go. You know, now we're getting all the, can everybody see paddling maps here? And if I got too much of my screen space done with our smiling pictures?
No, we can all see it.
Okay, well, this is
We don't
paddling
see-
maps, and let me pick a trip that, yeah. You know, Devon to Edmonton. And I won't say anything critical about this because my kid contributed. Maybe one day he'll take over publishing the Canoe Guide. But he has contributed a number of these paddling maps because he was on the AWA executive at one time and works with Simon quite closely with his kayak club and was encouraged to do some of the early reports here. Okay, well, I was pleased to see in your poll there, Devon and Jim, that people are using Facebook reports and paddling clubs and local authorities. And also to see that Canadian canoe routes got included. Are there people here who've never been to Canadian canoe routes? Well, let's go there.
Get some stuff in the chat, Mark. Mike says that's a good site that he likes it. I know that I've used it quite a bit in the past, as so has Jim. I used it a lot more when I lived on the East Coast.
Yeah, when 5 or 6 years ago, when we were looking for alternatives to Clayton's stuff, I encouraged Paddle Alberta to get mixed up, and I also allowed Canadian canoe routes. You'll see that they have what they call skeletons out of my canoe guide, which is, you know, if I have a canoe guide report that's 3 pages long, they have about a half-page skeleton of each of those reports in there. And then, of course, there's all the individual reports. But one of the most interesting parts I find in Canadian canoe routes when I do go to it is the chats and questions and answers that people are putting in there. And there are some local moderators. In fact, Ralph, you've been a moderator on this, have you not? Are you still? Ralph Ricks? Okay.
He's muted.
Now, you know, we talk about strengths and weaknesses, and this came across the other day. I can't remember if it was an email or a Facebook, but this Battle River paddling guide. I was a little appalled at how little actual paddling information they have in it. Yeah, they tell you why to go, but you know, I've read through some of this stuff 2 or 3 times, and it's not very good at giving you how long, how far, real access points. It's I'm a little I don't know. I think a Chamber of Commerce must have written this. Anyway, I'm going to get out of that. Okay. Are there other suggestions for web resources that I've missed here?
Yeah, I would suggest if anyone has individual ones to pop them down in the chat, then we can kind of collect them all, and then everyone will have access to them there too.
Oh, good. Yeah. If you guys could do that, that would be much appreciated. I know there's a whack of stuff, and it's interesting what some people find. I had a lady send me an email a while ago, and somehow she'd got into my personal photo album collection in Google. And she thought some of my trip reports there were the best sources, and the reports are just mostly photographs that she liked to use. How am I doing for time here, Jim, Devin? You guys tell me when
I think you're doing well, Mark. We're good.
Okay. Well, I also, if you've been looking behind me, you know, I got a whole wall of books, and I got about 3 shelves of canoeing guides or more. And there's some old ones that I still go and check. When I'm editing, updating a guidebook, sometimes I like to go back to the roots. Some of these guidebooks have reports that are not in my guide. Down there in southwestern Alberta, Canoeing Chinook Country Rivers by Dave Young and Hans Berman is still mostly a pretty valid report. Bunnies, 78 Canoe Alberta. That's the one that's never going to disappear because it was printed on plastic. I think the government was selling them for $10 for the 6 booklets, and it cost them $15 or $16. Best deal we ever got as paddlers from the Alberta government. But she's got a bunch of reports in there. I especially still use her Wabasca River reports because until recently, until my 2014 guide, I didn't include the Wabasca, and it's in there. There's a couple of others. The Parks Canada Wild Rivers Survey. You know, Wild Rivers Alberta, like that I found especially useful the time we went and paddled the Brazos River from Nigel Pass out to the Forestry Trunk Road. They were the first people to do that, and there's only been a few people other through there. Though Tristan Oliper just paddled it in a kayak and has posted a very good video of that run. And as any of the whitewater paddlers here might know, Stuart Smith's 2 books, the Southern and Central Rockies, is still the only source of information for a good many of the short whitewater creeking runs. You read that back and forth and you wonder how Stuart Smith ever stayed alive. Some of the places he got himself. Any other old guidebooks people would recommend? Okay. Like I said, using Google Earth. Oh, you know, I know what I forgot to do tonight was turn on Google Earth. The one thing I learned quite quick with Google Earth is always check that imagery date. Certainly in the early days, some of that imagery was quite a few years ago. Now you can go back through historical imagery, and in addition to what automatically comes up, and of course those dates are critical when you start to think about some of the big floods we've had here in Alberta or elsewhere, because there have been some significant changes. We lost a whole great big meander bend on the North Saskatchewan River between Barrymore and Genesee in the last big flood. And of course, the other thing you have to concern about is, you know, get an idea of what the date was and what the flow was, because, you know, if you're looking for log jams and sweepers, there's a big difference between what is there at low water and high water. And I was okay. Oh well, I'll get here next. The Google Earth's basic format is KML. And I thought that was something exclusive to them until I really actually started on this presentation. And I see it's, does anybody know the source of that KML format for coordinates? And I think it's used for more than just map coordinates or earth coordinates. When I was redoing the canoe guide in 2013, I was asked down to the University of Calgary to do a presentation about canoes and routes and whatnot, and had a good collection of Bow Waters paddlers there and old paddling friends. And I asked them at that time, should I continue to use military grid reference, because that is the grid reference that I had used for 20 plus years and I knew it well. And of course, it's the easiest one to use on Canadian top sheets. And when I put it to the vote there, they said they thought we should all switch to UTM, which is just a little bit different. And back there in 2013, Google Earth would take a UTM coordinate. It doesn't anymore. It is only working in decimal degrees or KML. And if you're using my canoe guide, I'm still in UTM. And I'm just going to bring up this converter here. And so when I was preparing this presentation, I took my UTM coordinates out of the guidebook, you know, trying to remember the three important things: the zone, the coordinate, and the easting and northing, and punched it in. And this, of course, was the coordinate for the, is that the Bow River Canoe Club there, Jim? The outfitter there down on the...
Yeah, that's the spot for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So it comes up. You know, I'm always happy if my coordinates get within about 50 to 100 meters, because that's about as accurate as our top sheets have been in the past. I just going to switch here for a moment to Google Earth. I think it should be coming up. If you don't mind me taking a moment, there we go. Who's been paddling on the Upper Red Deer lately? Tell Devin in chat there. Or turn on your mic and speak.
When was the last time you paddled out that way, Mark?
The Upper Red Deer, oh, it'd be probably about 2 or 3 years.
With the Bow Waters Canoe Club, we do that every September as our last big
Yes.
thing.
Okay. Well, just for those of us who I just got to make sure I'm not lost here. There we go. Now we go. I was actually thinking of doing this on a little different stretch, but who can tell me where we're at here? What do you see?
Eroding banks, lots of islands.
Oh yes, yeah. here we go. This is where it gets interesting. Okay, now here's a feature. When I was showing this to Jim the other day, he said, I can pick out my last paddling route through there. That would be.
Yes.
Is that
Double
Cash
ledge?
Hill? Or Coal Camp Ledge?
No, that's the double ledge
Double
upstream
ledge.
of the Coal Camp Ledge. And I have to tell you, if you got my guidebook open to this, I'm going to use this for a little bit more of a demo. I'm getting some discrepancy. You know, Google Earth doesn't give me the same consistent results that I get on. Let me get back to here. There we go. The same kind of consistent results measuring distance, and I get very inconsistent elevation results in Google Earth. We can talk about that in a moment here, if you like. One of the ways I see a lot of people using Google Earth is they're printing the air photos as their maps on the river. And I once had an old paddler who was an engineer told me, you know, you should probably invest in printer ink because it's going for about 50,000 a barrel. So I don't print a lot of Google Earth maps, just sometimes for critical things, waterfalls, portages, access roads sometimes. And the Alberta Highways map is probably the best highways map in Canada, if not North America. Maybe I'm a little prejudiced, but because I have an old friend of mine who used to be the supervisor at Alberta Highways mapping, and he started out there under an old German. The rivers and lakes and any of the water features on that map are accurate. I have navigated for, well, first time we did Athabasca to Fort McMurray on the Athabee. The only thing we had was the Alberta Highways map, and we only got lost for a couple times. We were able to keep track of our progress the whole way. The only problem was the 14 rapids weren't on the map. Anyway, I always travel with the Alberta Highways map. Any questions on this page? Okay, so I got a question. How many here prefer to work in decimal degrees, or Jim was telling me he still likes degrees, minutes, seconds, and then in between the two are degrees and decimal minutes, and of course UTM. But should we be letting Google Earth dictate what coordinate system we use?
We've got a couple different answers here. Jim prefers Latin long, Barbara UTM, and Sandro and David. Matthew prefers MGRS. Ralph prefers UTM. We have lots of UTM takers, it seems.
So should I switch? I mean, one day I'm going to have to write a third edition, maybe. I mean, when I switched from MGRS to UTM, it took me about 2 days of steady work to get there.
Maybe you just put all the options in there.
Well, you know, it takes up paper space, and I probably published the heaviest canoe guide in Canada. You should, you know, poor old Carla, when she's shipping it out for Paddle Alberta, she charges the full freight. It cost me about $12 to ship an individual guidebook. Oh yeah, I was just going to, yeah, well, maybe I've already covered quite a bit of this. Now, let me say that, I've been measuring the distances on the Red Deer River. I started off scaling them right on the 1 to 50,000 top sheets. And Bunny Perry in 1978 was the first one to show me how to scale using the edge of a piece of paper and measuring distances, short straight line distances down the river. And I used to get quite good with that so that I could remeasure a distance and get down to a 1 or 2% error in 100 kilometers. And then when I switched to using GPSs, I used Garmin Topo Canada and their old map source software. And I could get distances again within 1 or 2% of what I was getting off the top sheets. But I was just going to show a little demo here. I'm going to, everybody knows how to measure distances on Google Earth. Can everybody see the double edge again?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, and when you want to measure distances, you use the path tool. And let me get that out of the way. Well, if we put in at the double edge and don't want to run it, we probably start in this eddy right here, and we can head down the river. Yeah. I'm just going to measure this down to the coal camp ledge. Somebody wrote and said, my stuff was way out in between the double ledge and the coal camp ledge. There was a ledge that was so big it was a waterfall. This is what I refer to as the 2013 ledge, because that's the flood it showed up after. It can be fairly tall. We'll speed this up a little bit. We're almost there. Yeah, I did a Paddle Canada Advanced Canoe Instructors course. We spent about 2 days right on this corner practicing everything.
And so, Mark, this tool, like this application of this tool, what do you normally use this for planning? Just in distance that you're expecting to cover and stuff like that?
Yeah, this is how I would measure out check distances. I do essentially the same thing in the Garmin Topo Canada. Okay, so here we are down to the, oh, there it is. There's the coal camp ledge. So there's the coal camp ledge, and this is the gravel bar that we would normally get out at. And well, this has been consistent. I'm getting about 3 kilometers every time I measure this. When I measured it in Topo Canada and on top sheets, I was getting about 3.7 kilometers. So I got about, on such a short distance, to get a 700-meter difference is, I'm not sure where the error is coming from. I'm going to have to go back and double check my other measurements. Any questions about measuring distance?
Mark, it's Jim here. I've never tried to be too exact on measurements. We use the Canada app on our iPhone to get approximate measurements, and then just really go by landmarks.
Yeah, I mean, especially on bigger rivers, the distance depends a lot on how you go around the corners. And on a river like the Red Deer here, the channels change, distances change. And again, even high and low water. I mean, if you were here in flood and cutting this corner, you'd cut off 40 or 50 meters on every corner sometimes. So yeah, distances are always kind of variable, but we need to have some kind of idea how far it is, because that tells us in some ways how long it's going to take. So if can everybody see my hand here? When I was looking at this the other night, I know I got a contour line at about this point, about it's about 600 meters above the double ledge. And the contour here is 1,220 meters. If you look at Google Earth right down in the lower right-hand corner, it's saying that that spot was about 1,230 meters. So there's about a 10-meter difference. This is why I'm a little skeptical about elevations in Google Earth. And this is the third time I think I played with this since I started this presentation. Okay, let's put him away for a while. The other place, and it doesn't matter whether it's Google Earth or you're working on top sheets, I find contour lines often in narrow river sections and canyons to be misleading. And you'll see that comment in the canoe guide, that what I paddle isn't reflected by the average gradients. And if you've paddled the upper Red Deer River, I think the highest gradient there is oh, son of a gun. I should go back there. I was gonna. What's the highest gradient we got? Yeah, around 9 meters to the kilometer, 8.4, which is in a surprising spot because it's up where the Wild Horse Creek down to the Panther River. Even going through the Jimbo staircase, we only get to 5.8, 7.2 meters to the kilometer, which aren't, terribly exciting. Good levels. What are the limitations? Scale, sometimes in Google Earth, as I've suggested. Photo clarity. I was actually going to do this part of the presentation on a stretch on the Smoky. Well, the Google Earth air photo up right now that's up for that upper Smoky, there's no way you can really see very much. You just kind of get a hint of where the canyons and the big drops are. And there's lots of them, most of which aren't on the topo sheet. Winter, sometimes, well, most of us probably do our trip planning in the winter. And if Google Earth is up to date, you're likely to get a river that's frozen over and you can't see anything. And then again, knowing what the flow level when the picture was taken. Any other suggestions or questions about starting to think about using Google Earth for planning trips from scratch? Or
we got lots of suggestions in the chats for different types of software in there that people can go check out too, that are similar to Google Earth, maybe offer some complementary stuff or some different stuff, some different tools as well.
And how many of them are free?
That's a good question. Sandro, can you speak to CalTopo and ESRI maps?
Yeah, can I talk?
Yep, you're on.
Okay. I use Google Earth as well for 15 years. And I use as well CalTopo at the same time. The CalTopo, the license, there is one license that's free. and there's an license, just pay $20 and you have access to a lot of maps, overlay maps from all Canada tops. Plus, you have access to a G map fabricated in new ways. They call ERSI, and you link all topo to Google Earth. It means when you are in Google Earth, you have access to around 50 maps from Canada and US. Plus, you have high resolution map satellite image from ERSI for free. And that changed right away the way you see Google Earth. Because rural as well, Marco said, there's some limitation, but when you link to Call Topo, change everything right away. Even plus when you link to ESRI maps, the quality is so good. You can see all the white waters, even the waterfall is very clear. Like it's amazing, the quality. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really
thank
good
you. That's great.
software.
No
Yeah.
surprises that way.
No. When I show the pictures to people, even the Google Earth, there's something really cool. I really like Google Earth because you can see on the same year, well, when you are checking an area, you can change the image or the date they took the picture, and then you scroll the bar, you can see different years, and you can see right away if there's a flood area or something changed on that area. That's a very interesting tool on Google Earth. But when you connect to CalTopo or ESRI map, it just gives you so many tools on Google Earth. It's amazing. Yep, that's it.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sandro. That's excellent contribution. And
Yes.
you
Yeah,
know, Mark,
I'm learning.
that's great. And Mark, I think we should be pulling it to a close within 5 minutes if you
Well,
if you
guess
can.
what? I've blown that 20 minutes.
Well,
you know, hopefully it helps out a little bit with the your trip planning. You know, and the longer I've been planning my own trips, the more I like to get back into the history and the natural history and you know, where do you find out all of that complementary stuff that makes trips far more interesting. And a couple of suggestions here. Canoeing North into the Unknown by Hodgkins and Hoyle. It is just a compendium of who has been paddling where, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, there's most of the stuff is well referenced, so you can find old reports way back, geological survey reports, and of course even Eric Morris's Fur Trade Canoe Routes of Canada Then and Now is a good resource. Yeah, the more you learn, the better a trip will be.
right.
And if you look at this picture, I mean, you've probably been looking at the background picture. This was about 2 strokes before the cover picture. I didn't use it on the cover because it took up, covered up too much of the map of Alberta.
Well, Mark, that's great to hear you talking about this, all of those, and thanks for the comments in the chat. And Sandro, thanks for referring to those 2 resources that you're comfortable with. Are there any last minute questions for Mark, either in the chat or just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask?
Mark, I was going to mention that one amazing resource I found is to go looking for Facebook pages of various paddling groups in the area you plan to go. So as an example, I belong to the Kootenay Paddlers, and all through the West and East Kootenays, well, particularly the West Kootenays, you see these amazing places that they go constantly. Likewise, Okanagan Paddlers. So the resource in the end really is those people. But there's anywhere you go like that, there's a real depth of expertise.
Yes. I you know, like even our own Ceyana Canoe Club often has good information. And whenever I post a trip report to it, I always try and include or I often include a copy of the flow data and a map, because it doesn't take long to generate those one trip by one trip.
Great. Thanks for that contribution. Was that you, Don?
Yes, that was me.
Oh, thank you. Any last questions? All
Oh,
right,
I
well-
do.
Oh,
I
go
forgot.
right
I still
ahead.
got a couple questions here. Yeah. How long do you think paper guidebooks are going to be around? That's a personal question I have. And then I got the other two questions. You know, what can we be doing to, you know, get our new and upcoming? And we have a hell of a pile of new people on the rivers and lakes in our province. And I suspect we do across the whole country, given the shortage of canoes and paddles. You know, how do we get these people involved in our paddler organizations? How do we get them involved in the environmental advocacy organizations? Because, you know, here in Alberta, we're having a hell of a problem with some of these new outdoor recreators leaving more garbage. Well, they leave all the garbage that they would have in the city, but there's no garbage collection agency. It's appalling in many places.
Mark, you just raised a really interesting question. I noticed that, again, the Facebook page, Kayak Alberta BC, which I think might be hosted by Acrobatic, I'm not sure. But I constantly see posts, I just bought my first canoe or kayak. What do I need to know? And you're right, we really have to find ways to reach out to these people so we can avoid some incidences out on the water.
Well, I mean, you guys in Banff just had an incident, right? You know, clearly inexperienced paddlers where they shouldn't be.
Yes, that's right. And then that was just one of a couple that we've had recently. We're just fortunate we haven't had any fatalities. And that's a good
Yeah.
question, Don. And it gives us a suggestion on where we might be able to go with Canoeing Live and how we could help in that regard.
Well, in Calgary, we have an amazing resource that allows us to be visible to the general community, and that's called Harvey Passage. The paddlers are massively outnumbered by people just down to enjoy the show, to go get wet in the river. And they are constantly coming up to you and asking questions, wanting to know if there's clubs and the like. So clearly, as a club in particular, being visible to the community.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're getting closer to 8:30. So with your permission, I'll draw this to a close. And I wanted to remind people that they've got a great resource, if they don't have it already, in Mark's Guide for Alberta Paddlers. And it's never far. I don't think we're ever going to go away from paper. Chip keeps buying the canoeing books. So if that's any indication, thanks, Sandro. But if you don't have this, even if you're from outside of Alberta, I think you should get it. It'll intrigue you to come and paddle in our province. And Dev is going to put a note into the chat for how you can access it. So watch for that over the next couple minutes. It'll go in there. And I want to thank Dev for monitoring the chat for Mark's participation. And I want to thank Mark for his, decades long inspiration for canoeing, and personally for getting me on the right track and introducing me to many paddlers. And I look forward to the next chance we get to paddle. So thank you very much, Mark, for participating tonight. Let's
You coming down to the Milk River on Canada Day weekend?
Well, I'll have to check with the boss on that. We've just
Well, Don, see if Don's still got a campsite for you.
okay.
Well, there's lots of room for tents. Obviously, there's that huge field around the picnic shelter, which we have booked for 5 nights.
Right.
All the service sites that we had reserved have been spoken for putting trailers in. But if you've just got a camper van, you don't need to plug into anything. There's lots of room to park those as well.
Well,
The only
thank you
thing I
very
ask
much.
is that you belong to either to one of the Paddle Alberta recognized canoe clubs.
Or Alberta Whitewater Association, because we're all on the same insurance
Yes,
policy.
exactly.
Yep.
Well, and if you haven't paddled the milk, my wife and I have, I think 3 times now. It's just a spectacular river in Alberta, a wonderful geological tour. I had nothing but good things to say about that.
Well, I'd sure like to paddle it because you're an old geologist, Jim.
Oh yes, that's why I like latitude and longitude, Mark. Me and the bush pilots. Anyway, I want to thank you, and I'm sure you'll see a little bump of sales from this participation today. So now I'd like to move to a very popular part in Canoeing Live, and that's sharing some photographs. And I want to show our youngest member at Canoeing Live, and this is my daughter and granddaughter, Amelia, at Kalamalka Lake. And we took about 200 pictures to get these 2 pictures. First of all, the one on the left where Amelia is so happy to be in her PFD. And of course, the one on the right represents the other 199 pictures, as she didn't like that PFD, but I'm sure we'll get her used to that. So thank you very much, Linda, for submitting these pictures that I took. And then last week we were paddling on the Bow River. Guy Paulson was trying out his new Hellman, a short little boat right in the shadow of Castle Mountain. It was a lovely day. We dodged the rain shadows that day. We've also got, and I need some advice on this over the next few weeks, please. We do at least one major trip in the summer, a canoe trip, and we've been paddling in a Squeef Prospector 17, which we're the second owner. It's been through the mill, that boat. It's been wrapped. We've replaced gunnels. And I think we've been doing a great job of fixing it with our Kevlar. But my wife, Chip, is getting a little nervous about it. And I pulled out this Old Town Tripper that we found under a log jam not far from Castle Mountain. And it, in fact, is the best boat we've got in the fleet. But it's green. And we have a strong reputation in Banff about paddling red boats. And there was a little stir in social media to see this posted last week, but I'm finding it a very good boat. I'm trying to talk my wife into using this one, which cost us $0 versus a new $4,000 boat. So anybody who has arguments that will help me, I would appreciate. So there's another post. I'm skipping over these. I've left them in there from last week. Here's Dev, would you like to talk about this picture? I think you are responsible for it.
Yeah, this is from this afternoon, paddling the Red Earth Rapids, my partner. Yeah, we had a lovely day out there.
And how did you take this one?
So this is a GoPro just mounted right on the front gunnel with a little clamp.
Very nice. And it was very skillful of you to maneuver her right into the biggest wave in the wave train as well.
Always.
Oh.
Otherwise, there's no pictures.
Okay, and I know Pam Little is on the call tonight. And Pam, would you like to talk a little bit about these 2 pictures you submitted?
Well, the one on the left, my left, is taken on the Gammon River, which flows into the Blood Vein. It's on the east side of Lake Winnipeg. Beautiful river. And I sometimes do a trip with a school group in Winnipeg that has been doing this trip for oh boy, probably close to 30 years now, sort of under the radar in the school system program. And kids love it. Anyways, I just went along because they didn't have female, they started to, young women were starting to want to go on the trips. It's for grade 11 and 12s. And they didn't have any female teachers that paddled. So I got to go on a few of them. And the one on the right is Caddy Lake paddle. It's a flat water paddle in Manitoba in the White Shell area. And it's the railway goes through there, and they connected several lakes by making tunnels. So you go from lake to lake in these tunnels that the railway made. Anyways, it's quite an interesting paddle. It can be done as a loop. So anyways, they're two very different areas in Manitoba. So there's tons of paddling in Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Pam. Here, I had to put one in with myself. Well, I guess it's more than one. This is with Tina Marika Barzo-Guy, our guest speaker from 2 weeks ago, and I've never paddled with her. We paddled yesterday. This is in the Lake Louise Rapid Wave Train, and there's Lacey, the whitewater dog. Lacey has a habit of just hiding behind the bow paddler, and when she sees a big wave coming, she just ducks out. And but Tina, a real strong paddler, and we had a lot of fun. I took 2 pictures, and again, this is with a GoPro, which is suspended on a broken hockey stick just off the gunnel. So this was picture number 1, and there's picture number 2. And we had a lovely paddle that day. We took on a bit of water on that stretch. And then here, Eric Carlton and Karen Messenger with their youngster. I forget the youngster's name, but they were out. No, who is this?
Strider is the,
Yeah, but
I
this
think-
is a
I
different
think
boat.
this is Brad and Kim.
yeah,
Yes.
Brad,
Eric.
Kim and Avery.
Brad Hahn and Kim Hahn with their, I think she's about 3 years old now, isn't she, Chip?
Yeah.
And out on the Bow River. Okay, now I want to
Was
show
that their
you.
18-foot boat?
Yes, that's yeah, their new boat. These are 2 pictures I took today. We had 5 boats out on the Bow, and that's represented by the team here on the left. Look at how well we're dressed. You know, totally ready for any challenge. As we pulled out at the Trans-Canada Highway, this young group was putting in, and you're seeing everything they had, which was very little. No PFDs, but they all had beers, and they were heading to Banff. And I very tactfully asked or suggested that they stay on the inside of the turns because there were a lot of log jams. And to your point earlier, Dawn, there is an education need. And this wasn't the only group taken off today from that location. And I brought a picture here from Don Mitchell, and we've been hearing from him today. And I'm just getting a sense he's a mover and shaker in the canoeing.
No, actually, I'm a swimmer.
You're a swimmer.
Yeah, I call myself Duncan Don.
Okay. Well, I wanted to do a special shout out to Don, because Don over the last 2 weeks has been responsible for almost doubling our subscribers at Canoeing Live. He's been putting posts into different Facebook groups, and I want to thank you for that, Don. And not just that, but your contributions today. It's clear that you're a deep thinker and you care about recreation and human lives and having fun. And I look forward to seeing you dump again sometime. All right. So now I wanted to do a look ahead canoe tripping in the Canadian Shield in northern Saskatchewan. And we're going to have a couple speakers on that. And I thought I'd entice you with these 3 pictures. One, there's Jim Buckingham's clipper on the side of a beaver heading north from Mississippi. It's tied right on. Some of those outfitters, they tie them on with straps and ratchets. This outfitter, it's just yellow rope. And there's one of our portages. I think that was the Steep Hill Portage, and that's me going up the portage trail. It hadn't been cleared in quite a while, but it was cleared at my foot level. And there was a skidway just off to the right of the picture here. And on the picture on the right, there's our group learning how to sail. And we had a lot of fun learning how to sail and got that canoe going so quickly. The water started pouring in the front between the gunnels of the different canoes. So and a few announcements. First of all, let's please be really responsible with our COVID protocols. We're almost through this terrible year, but let's not be caught short at the tail end. I would like to reiterate that recordings of our events are posted on the Canoeing Live website, and you can see Doug McCowan's talk on safety, Tina Barzo's on Leave No Trace, Clean, Drain and Dry, which we did very well yesterday. And please bring a friend with you on June 13th and submit your photos in advance and we will highlight them. And if you wish to stay late after this meeting, we'll just open all the mics and have an informal chat. But just as we're going to leave, I'd like to do another one of our selfies. So turn those cameras on. Look at this one. I haven't seen the pirate lately, but I'd love it if he came back. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Thank you from Canoeing Live. And we'll see you on the water. Thanks for coming, everyone. Look forward to seeing you next time. Please send in your comments and save the chat, and you'll get a lot of good information there. Good night now.